Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, going to be talking about the 12-game NBA DFS slate on Draftkings for Wednesday, October the 19th, second day of the NBA season, and we got a big slate tonight. Obviously on Tuesday for opening night, we just had a two-gamer. Well, they're pretty much giving us every other team. I don't know what other. There's two other teams that aren't playing today, but pretty much every team that didn't play on Tuesday is going to be playing today. 12-game slate. We're going to go game by game. We're going to kind of talk through each game quickly. I'm not going to try and keep you guys for too long. I want to try and keep these DFS videos between like 20 to 25 minutes. So we're going to do a quick, brief overview of each game, talk about some guys I'm liking from each game. We will mention the projected starting lineups for each team because I think that is important to mention early on in the season because we don't exactly know what the starting lineups are going to be. I can at least give you guys what the projected starting lineups are. But yeah, guys, before we get started with the breakdown, as always, please hit that like button down below if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. If these videos do help you and you want more content from me, I do provide that over on Patreon. I do give out a player pool and core plays for each DFS slate, so for DraftKings and for Yahoo. I know there were some questions about Yahoo. I'm not going to do any YouTube content for Yahoo this year, but I'm still covering Yahoo on the Patreon. So I have my player pool for Yahoo, core plays for Yahoo that's provided on Patreon. You can get in our Discord chat as well. And I also do give out some additional Prize Picks plays on Patreon. And for those of you that are new here, Prize Picks is the sponsor of this video. You can check out Prize Picks using the link down below in the description or just when you sign up. Make sure to use promo code NOAH. When you do sign up with my promo code, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Prize Picks is a player prop based DFS site, very simple and easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. They do already have some props up for Wednesday. Hopefully they'll add some more props because I do want to try and give you guys some early picks that I'm liking for Prize Picks. I'll probably have a video posted maybe like an hour or two after this video goes up. I'll have a Prize Picks video sharing a couple plays I like, kind of taking a first look at the board. There's not a ton of props up right now, but hopefully they'll add some more within the next hour or two. But obviously, as we get closer to the start of the games on Wednesday, there will be a ton of props available. It's a 12-game slate, so there's going to be plenty of options. You can take a look at their full board, make some picks for yourself. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. Very simple, very easy to do. And again, you're making 2 picks. You can make up to 5 picks. You can win up to 10x your money. Go check out Prize Picks. Make sure to sign up with promo code NOAH so that way you do get a deposit bonus when you sign up. But let's talk through this 12-game slate, man. We'll start off with the first game of the night, the Wizards and the Pacers. So looking at these two teams, projected starting lineup for the Wizards is going to be Monte Morris, Bradley Beal, Will Barton, Kyle Kuzma, and Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, 2 additions there with Monte Morris and Will Barton. And then on the other side with the Pacers, pretty much running the same starting lineup they did last year. Tyrese Halliburton, Chris Duarte, Buddy Hield, Jalen Smith, and Miles Turner. Miles Turner healthy now, but looking at these two teams in this game, what stands out here? There's a couple plays I'm liking in this game. I think Tyrese Halliburton at 7,800 looks like a pretty solid option. I mean, Halliburton should be a guy that averages, over a fantasy point per minute. I know when he was with the Pacers last season, he was pretty productive on a point per minute basis. He's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet, can score, can get a lot of assists. He can get some rebounds as well. And I think the Wizards were a pretty fast-paced team last season, if I do remember correctly. Actually, they were 22nd in pace. But now that they're fully healthy, maybe they'll play a little bit faster. And now that they have Beal fully healthy, they have Monte Morris, Will Barton. I could definitely see this being kind of a high-scoring game. So there's a couple guys I like. I think Halliburton at 7,200 looks like a pretty solid option if you want to go to him on this slate. Other guys, that kind of stand out. I'm not, it's a 12-game slate, so I don't want to just talk about like every single player. I really want to try and key in on the guys that I'm really interested in. The one guy that I do really like quite a bit is Jalen Smith. So Jalen Smith, like I mentioned, is projected to start, and he is only 4,400. We know that Jalen Smith is a really good point per minute player. He's a guy that can average, over a fantasy point per minute. And I'd assume if he starts that he's playing like around 30 minutes or, somewhere near that range. Even if he gets like 25 minutes with how productive he is on a point per minute basis, he can definitely exceed this salary in 25 minutes. He is questionable for this game, so I guess that will be worth watching. Did want to mention that. I think he'll play, though. Normally, guys tend to play the first game of the season. But if Jalen Smith is active and if he's starting at 4,400, he's a pretty solid value play on the slate. I do have quite a bit of interest in Jalen Smith. I think Halliburton's solid. Bradley Beal, Porzingis, Kuzma, they're GPP options for me. Like, none of those guys really stand out at their price tags. There's definitely other plays that are underpriced that I would rather go to. Miles Turner, he's a guy that does have some upside. we'll see, how he's able to mesh with Halliburton and Buddy Hield, because, those guys didn't really play much at all last season together because, after the trade deadline, when they acquired Halliburton and Hield, Miles Turner wasn't healthy. So we'll have to see how he's able to play with those guys. Like, I think at 6K, like, Miles Turner's a fine option, but the two guys that I really like from this game are Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Smith. Probably it, though. Monte Morris, Will Barton, I think they're kind of priced correctly for what their roles are going to be with these teams and, for their usage. So, yeah, that's probably it for this one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, talk about the Magic and the Pistons. So, looking at this game for projected starting lineups on the Magic side, their starting lineup should pretty much be the same thing it was last season, except they do have Paolo Banchero now. But Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Banchero, and then Wendell Carter Jr., that should be the starting five for the Magic. On the other side with the Pistons, they're going to most likely be starting Cade Cunningham, rookie Jaden Ivey. They did get Bojan Bogdanovic from the Jazz, Sadiq Bey, and then Isaiah Stewart. Looking at this game, we do have some guys priced, somewhat cheap, I think. Cade Cunningham, we know the upside that he has, and I still think Cade Cunningham is going to have a pretty big role this season, even though they do have, Jaden Ivey now. I think Cade Cunningham is going to be a guy that, plays big minutes on a nightly basis. He's probably going to, be a guy that's not priced at 7. Like last season, he was priced in the, upper 8s, sometimes even above 9K. We're definitely getting a discount on him to start the season. The pricing is pretty soft on this slate. Like you can build some really good lineups. It's very easy to construct like really good lineups. And I definitely think Cade Cunningham is one of those guys that is underpriced here. Do like him quite a bit at 7K. Paolo Banchero, it's always a little iffy going to rookies like in their first NBA game. You don't really exactly know how they're going to play, but I think Banchero played pretty well in the preseason, if I do remember correctly. He was solid. He's 6,800. I think he's probably priced correctly for what his role is going to be, but I don't mind going to Banchero here. Wendell Carter Jr. is a productive player when he gets minutes. He should be playing like all of his minutes at center this year. At 6,100, if we're getting low to mid 30s minutes from Wendell Carter Jr., like I don't mind going there. We saw him be a guy that was priced above the 7 to 8K range last season. I know the Magics did get Banchero, and maybe Wendell Carter takes a little bit of a hit now that Banchero's on the team, but I think at 6,100 starting at center, Wendell Carter Jr. looks like a really solid option as well in the mid range. Him and Cade Cunningham are probably my two favorite plays from this game. Not a ton else, though, that I'm loving. I think Isaiah Stewart's an okay value. He should start at center for the Pistons. He was a guy that did show some upside last season when he could stay out of foul trouble. He is power forward and center eligible on Draftkings, which is nice. There's some flexibility there. And I want to say that he's been working on his three-point shot. Looks like in their most recent preseason game, he took 10 threes. So it looks like he's going to start shooting more threes this year, which is kind of interesting. Just adds to his upside, adds to his floor. It's like he's viable if you want to go there. Probably it, though, for this game. I don't think there's too much else I'm really seeing. Again, guys, I don't want to talk about every single player because I don't want this video to be an hour long. So we're just going to try and hit on the key options that I feel the best about from each game. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, the Bulls and the Heat. So looking at these two teams and looking at projected starting lineups on the Bulls side, we already have their projected lineup or confirmed lineup, and it's pretty much the same lineup they ran last year. Io is going to start at point guard with Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Vooch. Pretty much what we expected. On the Heat side, they're expected to start Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, and Bam Adebayo. I'm not sure if Tyler Hero is actually going to start. I don't know if that's if they've reported that. Hero normally comes off the bench, but we'll have to see here. It looks like he is okay, so he's expected to start. So yeah, Tyler Hero is expected to start. So Lowry, Hero, Butler, Caleb Martin, and then Bam Adebayo. There's definitely some guys I'm liking in this game. At the top, Butler, DeRozan, Zach LaVine, I think they're all priced correctly. Like none of those guys really stand out in this slate. Vooch, really tough spot going up against Bam. At 7,200, I think Vooch is priced correctly. But as you can tell by the thumbnail, Bam Adebayo, 6,400. I'm really liking Bam Adebayo on this slate. I think he will be pretty chalky if I had to guess. But this is just too cheap of a price tag for Bam Adebayo. I mean, he was last season was like a 1.2 fantasy point per minute player. I want to pull his rates up last season just to confirm that. But I know he was a guy that obviously was productive when he got minutes. He's another guy that can handle playing big minutes. We might see some starters not play as massive minutes to start the season, but I thought that was going to be the case. And then we saw Jason Tatum played almost 40 minutes. Jaylen Brown played almost 40 minutes opening night. So I think Bam's probably going to play big minutes right out of the gate. Last season, 25% usage rate, averaged 1.22 Draftkings points per minute. At 6,400, I think Bam is just too cheap here. He's going to be probably in the upper 7s, maybe around the 8K range for most of the season. He definitely stood out to me when I first looked at this slate. I think he's a very solid center play at that price tag. Tyler Hero, if he does wind up starting, I think that will be a little bit of a boost to his minutes. Now, his usage might take a bit of a hit playing with Jimmy Butler, playing with Kyle Lowry, and playing with Bam. The more minutes that he plays with those guys, it's not that great. You want Hero playing with the second unit because then he can really dominate the usage when he's with the second unit. But if he's going to be starting, I do feel pretty confident he'll be playing like 30, 32 minutes a night. If at the least, he'll probably get to the mid to upper 30s some nights. At 6K, I don't mind Hero on this slate. Not too much else, though, that I'm really liking from this game. Patrick Williams is going to start. He's really cheap, but I think there's just better value. Same with Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin is expected to start, but he's 4,600. That feels priced about right. Don't really think there's much from the bench that I'm going to want to go to. I'm not, it's going to be targeting bench guys early on in the season is going to be a little bit risky just because we don't exactly know how bench minutes are going to be spread out to start the season. So I'm kind of going to try and focus on starters for the most part, but there will definitely be some bench guys that we do talk about that will be viable. But yeah, that's it for this game. Definitely, Bam stands out as a really good play in this one. I like him a ton on this slate. Let's move on to the next game, though, the Cavs and the Raptors. So looking at this game and projected starting lineups on the Cavs side, they obviously made a big addition over the offseason getting Donovan Mitchell. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Karis LeVert, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen should be the starting lineup for the Cavs. And then on the Raptors side, pretty much the exact same starting lineup they ran last season. Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent, Scotty Barnes, OG, and Pascal Siakam. Looking at this game, there's some guys that I think are viable here. The Cleveland side, it's going to be tough to tell, with Donovan Mitchell now in the mix, how the usage gets spread out there. At 8,500, I don't think I'm really going to want to go to Donovan Mitchell. I think Darius Garland at 7,100 looks solid. I mean, Darius Garland's probably going to take a hit playing alongside Mitchell now. But he was a guy that we saw price above the 8K, 9K range last season. I know his role is going to be a little bit different this year, but he's someone that can handle playing big minutes. I'd expect him to play pretty big minutes right out of the gate. In the mid-range, I think Garland's a little too cheap on this slate. I think Siakam is a little bit too cheap. He's another guy that can handle playing really big minutes. We know Siakam is a productive point-per-minute player. Don't love the matchup against Cleveland. Cleveland's front court, their defense, I know is one of the better defenses in the league. But Siakam's just going to have a massive workload, so he's viable as well. Some other guys like Scotty Barnes, I don't hate at 6,100. Evan Mobley, I think, is too cheap at 5,900. He's another guy that we saw price, way above this. He was in the upper 6, low 7K price tag, kind of range for most of the season last year. Because the pricing is so soft today, there's going to be a lot of guys that stand out as being too cheap, and I think Mobley is another one. Mobley should play big minutes here. He played big minutes last season. I don't see really anything changing this year. They do have Kevin Love that, obviously he's going to get some minutes in that front court, but Mobley should play mid to upper 30s at 5,900. I think he's definitely too cheap here. He might honestly be my favorite play in this game, Evan Mobley. I think OG Anunoby is a guy that could take a big step forward this year. We saw him have a good preseason. He had a game where he scored 32 points in 29 minutes. He's really been working on his offensive game, it seems like, taking more shots, being more aggressive. He's not known to be an aggressive offensive player, but he's a guy that can score when, given the opportunity. And if he's going to be more aggressive this season, I think at 5,700, if he's going to be taking more shots, getting more usage, OG is also a guy that I'm kind of interested in on this slate. But that's probably it for this one. I think definitely two favorite plays here are OG and Evan Mobley. Both those guys do look a little bit too cheap. Everyone else I think is kind of priced about right. Let's move on to the next game, though, the Knicks and the Grizzlies. So looking at this game and projected starting lineups on the Knicks side should be Jalen Brunson, Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. Pretty much same starting lineup as last season, except for obviously Jalen Brunson is now on the team. And then on the Grizzlies side, they lost a couple of guys. Dylan Brooks is out right now. Or at least he's doubtful, so he probably won't start. But Desmond Bane, John Morant, Steven Adams, we know those three guys are starting. The other two projected starters are John Konchar and Santi Aldama. I'm guessing that'll be the starting lineup. I would assume when Brooks is healthy, he'll probably start. Jaren Jackson Jr. is still out as well, so he would normally start. So it looks like they got Konchar starting in place of Brooks, and then they have Aldama starting in place of Jackson. We'll have to keep an eye on that, though. I'm not confident that'll be the starting lineup. But looking at this game and some plays that stand out here, I think John Morant as a pay-up option is someone we can definitely go to. John Morant, pretty much any slate he's on, he is going to be viable. We know Ja is going to demand a massive role. He's going to play huge minutes on a nightly basis. I know the Knicks were a solid defensive team last season, and they played at a pretty slow pace. The Knicks played at the second slowest pace last year, so I don't think the matchup's great for Ja. but he's a matchup-proof player. The salaries are soft today, so you're going to be able to pay up for some studs if you want to go like a stars and scrubs route, and Ja is definitely one of the better pay-up options in my opinion. Now on the Knicks side, I think Julius Randle at his price tag does feel a little bit too cheap, but you got to think he's going to be sharing some usage, ceding some usage to Jalen Brunson now, and still playing with R.J. Barrett as well. So honestly, he might be priced about right. Same with Barrett. I think Jalen Brunson could be the guy that kind of leads this team in usage and has a really big role. Obviously, they signed him to a massive contract over the offseason. 6,900, like we know Jalen Brunson can produce when given opportunity. We saw what he could do whenever he was with the Mavs playing without Luka. Obviously, he's going to have big usage on this Knicks team, so he might be my favorite play from the Knicks if I had to go to anyone on that team. And then I think on the Memphis side, I do have a lot of interest in Ja. And I think Desmond Bane in the mid-range at 6,100 looks solid as well. I think Desmond Bane is another guy that could be poised to take a big step forward this season. We saw him have a big offensive role kind of late in the playoffs. He was taking a lot of shots. He was being really aggressive offensively, especially without Dillon Brooks and without Jaren Jackson Jr. to start the season. We're going to see a lot of shot attempts for John Morant, a lot of shot attempts for Desmond Bane, because you look, John Conchar is not going to demand the ball. He's a low-usage player. Santi Aldama is a low-usage player, and Steven Adams is a low-usage player. So with that starting lineup, the usage should be dominated by Ja and Desmond Bane. I think both those guys look like pretty good options here from Memphis. Probably not going to go to Steven Adams on this slate, and then, since Conchar and Aldama are projected to start, they could be viable cheap plays. Aldama's only 4K, Conchar is only 3,700. Neither one of these guys are like great point per minute players, and I don't think their roles or I don't think their usage is going to be great playing with Ja and with Bane. But they are cheap, and they're going to be starting, and they probably will both get like mid-20s minutes if I had to guess. We've seen John Conchar have good games at times. So like these guys are in play for value, but I think there will be other value plays down the road that we talk about that just are better. So let's move on to the next game, the Rockets and the Heat, or not the Heat, the Rockets and the Hawks, excuse me. So looking at this game and projected starting lineups, on the Houston side, their starting lineup should be Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Eric Gordon, Jabari Smith, and Şengün. Only big change there was that obviously Jabari Smith, rookie, will be in the starting lineup, and then on the Hawks side, pretty much same starting lineup as last year, except they do have DeJounte Murray now. So Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Clint Capella will be the starting lineup for Atlanta. Now, Atlanta, they're a tough team because Trae Young and DeJounte Murray sharing the ball is going to be a tricky situation, and they're both priced about right on DraftKings. Like DeJounte at 9,200 and Trae at 9,500. Neither one stand out as like priority plays for me. It is a really good matchup. Houston was one of the fastest paced teams in the league last season. They were second in pace. They were one of the worst defensive teams as well. They were actually dead last in defensive rating. I don't think much is going to change this year. I think Houston is going to be a really good matchup once again this season. So it's a great spot for Trae and DeJounte, but at their price tags, and with them sharing usage and stuff, and I just don't know if neither one is going to have the same per minute production that they had. I don't think DeJounte is going to be as productive in Atlanta as he was in San Antonio, at least on a point per minute basis. I might be wrong there, but playing with Trae Young is definitely going to impact his role a little bit. Same with Trae, obviously vice versa, playing with DeJounte. They're just kind of GPP options for me. Some other guys, though, that we can look to in the mid-range, Jabari Smith, Kevin Porter Jr., I think those guys are probably priced about right. Again, playing rookies, first NBA game for a rookie, it's always a little bit risky. Clint Capella is a guy that I played a lot last season, and he always seemed to disappoint. At 6,300, he's a GPP option. We know Capella is a guy that can crash the boards, has big-time upside. He's viable. But the two guys that really stand out from this game that I'm liking a lot are Şengün and Jalen Green. Şengün, we know, is a really good point-per-minute player. If you played NBA DFS last season, you know that Şengün was a guy that would produce when given opportunity. And we saw towards the end of the season when the Rockets were kind of tanking, they were letting Şengün play big minutes a night, every night while Christian Wood was injured. And obviously Christian Wood is no longer on the team. So Şengün's going to be the starting center. If he can stay out of foul trouble, he's going to probably play 34, 35 minutes a night. 5,600 is way too cheap for Şengün. He should be like 7K like he was last season. You see his price tags last season, he was around 7K. That's probably what he should be priced today. So I think Şengün is a really good play at 5,600. He is definitely too cheap. I think Jalen Green is too cheap as well. We saw Jalen Green take on a big role towards the end of the season last year. Was taking a ton of shots. Had a really high usage rate. The one negative about Jalen Green is that he is a pretty scoring dependent player. So if he's not hitting his shots, there's definitely kind of a low floor from him. But he's going to play big minutes. He's going to take a lot of usage in this Rockets offense. He's going to take a lot of shots. The matchup against Atlanta, I think, is fine. Like, I think this is probably one of the better games to target if you're looking just for like pace and projected points. I don't know what the total is in this Rockets-Hawks game, but I think it's probably going to be pretty high. So yeah, Jalen Green at 5,400. Him and Şengün are definitely my two favorite plays from this game. And that's probably it. You know, I think a guy like Tari Eason could maybe have a decent role here with the Rockets. I know a lot of people are kind of high on him. But again, like bench guys in their first NBA game, it's always tough to tell how the minutes are going to be spread out. I know he was pretty productive during the preseason when he got minutes. How many minutes is he going to play now in the regular season? We don't really know. But he's cheap and he's a good point per minute player. So like he's someone you could maybe go to more so probably for GPPs. But yeah, that's probably it for this one. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. I think we got, 6 more to go through. So we'll try and do these quickly, guys. We got Pelicans and Nets. So looking at the Pelicans, they're pretty much fully healthy now. They got Zion, and their starting lineup should be CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion, and J-Val. And then on the Nets side, Ben Simmons finally going to be playing. Ben Simmons should be starting at point guard with Kyrie, KD, Royce O'Neal, and Nicholas Claxton. So looking at the Brooklyn side first, I think on this slate, KD, Kyrie are both kind of priced where they should be. When both those two guys were healthy, I didn't really target either one much last season just because they do kind of take usage away from each other. It's always tough to predict which one's going to have the big game. I think on this slate, KD and Kyrie are just kind of like GPP options. Zion, I'm super excited to watch now that he's healthy again, but I think at 9,100, like he's priced where he should be. We're not getting much of a discount on him. The mid-range, though, I think that's where we get some solid plays. So like Ben Simmons, probably going to just wait and see on Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons, I'm excited to watch him play as well. I think he's still a guy that can produce when given opportunity, but at 7K, like I think he's priced probably where he should be. The two guys that I think are definitely cheap, that are too cheap, are CJ McCollum and J-Val. And even like Brandon Ingram at 7,300 feels a little bit too cheap. But CJ McCollum at 6,900, J-Val at 6,500. Like both those guys quite a bit. CJ McCollum should be starting at point guard here. His assist numbers should be pretty good this year with starting at point guard. We know he's a high usage player in general now. His usage is going to probably take a little bit of a hit now that he will be playing with Zion this season. But still, we saw CJ McCollum be really productive with the Pelicans last year. Even playing with Brandon Ingram, playing with J-Val, he was still a point per minute player, had a high usage rate. And again, I think starting at point guard is going to be good for his assist numbers. He's just going to have the ball in his hands more this season. I think he's too cheap at 6,900. And J-Val, this is one of my favorite guys to roster in DFS. Like he's just a guy that's going to stuff the stat sheet when he gets opportunity. Now, you always have to kind of worry about foul trouble with J-Val. You never know how many minutes he's really going to play, but I think he will be a guy that probably plays like low 30s minutes most nights, upper 20s, low 30s. His point per minute production might take a little bit of a hit playing alongside Zion now, but I still think J-Val's a guy that can go out there and put up a massive game any night. And at 6,500, that's definitely a little bit too cheap for the ceiling that he has. Probably more so a GPP option, but J-Val I'm really interested in. Probably it for this game. The one guy I do want to mention as a value is Herbert Jones. He's only 4,200. He should be starting for the Pelicans. Herbert Jones is not like he's not a high usage player. He's not going to take a lot of shots, but he's a really good defender. He can rack up steals and blocks. He can rebound as well. He's a guy that can handle playing really big minutes, and I think they'll probably play Herb Jones big minutes right out of the gate to start the season. They're going to want his defense, to guard KD and to guard Kyrie. So at 4,200, just kind of playing Herb Jones for the minutes, I think is definitely something you can do here. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays like upper 30s, 36, 38 minutes right out of the gate. And he's cheap at 4,200. So I do have some interest in Herb Jones as a value play. But that's really it for this game. I'm not seeing too much else that I'm loving in this one. So let's move on to the next game, OKC and Minnesota. So looking at this game and projected starting lineups on the OKC side, their starting lineup should be Josh Giddey, SGA, Lou Dort, Darius Bazley, and JRE. And then on the other side with the Timberwolves, projected starting lineup is D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Cat, and Rudy Gobert. Now looking at Cat kind of to start off, it's going to be tough to tell. Cat playing the 4 this year, his rebounding numbers I think are definitely going to take a big spike down playing with Rudy Gobert. We know Rudy Gobert is a guy that is going to gobble up a lot of rebounds. Cat, I think, is going to have to score a lot to really justify this price tag. So 9,800, I think Cat is probably priced where he should be, if not overpriced. SGA, I think at 8,700 is viable. He feels priced about right as well, but we know SGA is going to have a big role. We know he's a guy that offers a ton of upside. He's going to dominate the usage in this Thunder offense once again this season, especially with Chet Holmgren not healthy right now. So I'm definitely into SGA on this slate. Rudy Gobert, great matchup, but I think he's priced where he should be. Same with guys like Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell. Josh Giddey, I do have quite a bit of interest in. We saw Josh Giddey be a guy that could average well over a fantasy point per minute, and he was another player that was capable of handling big minutes on a nightly basis. As a young guy, he should definitely play big minutes right out of the gate for the Thunder. And him and SGA are going to be the two guys really handling the ball a lot, dominating the usage, taking a lot of the shots. And we saw Giddey post some triple doubles last season. Like, he's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. So I do like Josh Giddey and SGA quite a bit. I think they're probably my two favorite plays in general from this game. I don't know if there's too much else that I'm loving here. Like, JRE going up against Gobert and Cat at 5,400. JRE is someone that can produce when given opportunity. We saw him have some good games at times last season. Don't know exactly how many minutes he's going to play here. I mean, the Thunder do still have Poku. They do still have Mike Muscala. Like, they have a lot of bigs on their roster. They have Jalen Williams too. I think he's probably priced about right. It's probably it for this game. Like, Bazley he's kind of cheap at 4,400. If he's going to start, he probably plays like 25 to 30 minutes. He's another guy that when he got opportunity last season, when he got some starts and played good minutes, he could produce when given opportunity. So, I don't hate Bazley for value at 4,400. I think he's viable, but that's probably it for this game. I'm not seeing too much else I'm loving here. So next game, Charlotte and San Antonio. Looking at the Charlotte side, do have a little bit of a change with their starting lineup. They're going to be without LaMelo Ball here. So starting lineup should be Terry Rozier at point guard, Kelly Oubre, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, and Mason Plumlee. Obviously, Miles Bridges is not playing right now. And then on the San Antonio side, Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Scohan. I honestly don't even know who that is. I'm guessing that's a rookie. And then Jakob Poeltl. So first off, San Antonio, they're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league this season. They're definitely a favorite to get the number one pick. So San Antonio, they're going to definitely be a tough team to look to most nights. But when the price tags are right, this is going to be a team you can roster some guys from. And I think right out of the gate, these guys are cheap, man. Like, you got Keldon Johnson at 5,900. I mean, he's going to dominate the usage in the Spurs offense. Like, there's not a ton of high usage players that are going to demand the ball, that are going to take a lot of shots. And Keldon Johnson is going to do that. So I think at 5,900, he looks too cheap. Jakob Poeltl, he's a productive player when he gets minutes. I could definitely see the Spurs kind of trying to develop some of these young guys, and they do have a lot of bench depth. So I don't know if Poeltl plays huge minutes out of the gate, but at 5,800, he's definitely viable. But like, Trey Jones is really cheap. Devin Vassell is really cheap. I mean, these are guys that do look like pretty solid values. You got Devin Vassell at 4,600, Trey Jones at 4,200. I think Trey Jones probably going to be one of the better value plays on the slate. We saw him be really productive when he would start in place of DeJounte Murray, and obviously DeJounte Murray is no longer on the team, so Trey Jones should be the starting point guard for the Spurs. When he started last season, he was consistently priced like in the 5 to 6K range. He's only 4,200 here, and it's a really good matchup against Charlotte. Charlotte played at a really fast pace last season. Both of these teams played at a really fast pace. Charlotte, they were 5th in pace, and the Spurs were 6th. So this could definitely be a high-scoring game with not a ton of defense played. Trey Jones looks like a really good value. Devin Vassell, I think, is going to have a big role, especially without DeJounte Murray this year. He should play big minutes. Like, these Spurs guys look really good. They're just so cheap, man. And someone's going to have to shoot the ball. And I think Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and Trey Jones are going to be the guys really, handling a lot of the usage. I think Joshua Primo is a guy that could see a lot of opportunity off the bench. So if you want to go to him in tournaments at 4,100, I don't hate that at all. And then I do want to talk about some Charlotte guys. So without LaMelo and with Miles Bridges not playing, you should see some pretty good opportunity for Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, Gordon Hayward. I think at 7,300, Rozier is definitely still in play. I think he's kind of priced about right, but he is viable. PJ Washington at 7,100 definitely feels priced where he should be. Gordon Hayward, though, I think is a little bit too cheap at 5,800. I do expect Gordon Hayward to have a bigger role without Bridges and without LaMelo. We know Gordon Hayward's a guy that can handle the ball. He can play point guard if he needs to. So he's someone that I'm kind of interested in on the Charlotte side. Even like Oubre, I don't mind, especially if he starts. We know Oubre's a guy that can get hot and have some upside. He's in play at 5,500. But that's probably it for this game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, talk about Denver and Utah. So looking at Denver and Utah, projected starting lineup for the Nuggets. Exciting because the Nuggets, they're starting to get healthy now. They got Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back. Both those guys should be starting here. Jamal Murray, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Jokic should be the starting lineup for Denver. And then on the Utah side, definitely looks like a completely different team. Utah should be starting Mike Conley, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Jared Vanderbilt, and Kelly Olynyk. That's at least a starting lineup. That's a projected starting lineup. Nothing is confirmed yet, so you guys want to pay attention to that. But looking at this game on the Denver side, I think it's a great spot for Jokic here. Like, Utah, they're not going to be nearly as good of a defensive team as they have been in previous years. They lost their big defensive guy in Rudy Gobert. And now it's most likely going to be Jared Vanderbilt, Kelly Olynyk, and probably I don't even know what other bigs they have. Rudy Gay, I guess, might see some minutes at center. It's a great spot for Jokic, and we know Jokic is going to produce when he's on the floor. He's one of the best fantasy producers on a point-per-minute basis. He's going to demand a massive usage rate. Now that MPJ and Jamal Murray are healthy, his usage might not be as high as it was last season, but he still looks like one of the best pay-up options on the slate. And honestly, I think he's probably my favorite pay-up option in general today. Jokic should crush here. This Utah team is just going to have no answer for him. Love Jokic on the slate. I think Jamal Murray probably priced about right. I think the rest of the Denver guys feel priced about right. Aaron Gordon 5,800, MPJ 5,500. On the Utah side, Mike Conley should have a pretty solid role here. Without Donovan Mitchell on the team now, but at 6,500, he's another guy that feels priced where he should be. Same with Jordan Clarkson, even Colin Sexton. I think at 5,900 is priced about right. There's not a ton that I'm loving in this game outside of Jokic. The one other guy that I do want to mention though is Kelly Olynyk. So Kelly Olynyk, the main concern I have here is foul trouble. Kelly Olynyk is a guy that when he gets minutes, he can be productive, and we've seen him be productive when he was on the Pistons, when he was on the Heat. He was a point-per-minute player, and I would think with this Utah team as their starting center, he's probably going to play 25, 30 minutes a night, and he's only 5K. The concern, though, is foul trouble, and going up against Jokic, I would not be surprised to see Kelly Olynyk get in foul trouble here. But, man, if he stays out of foul trouble at just 5K, power forward and center eligible on DraftKings, I think Kelly Olynyk looks like a pretty good value play on this slate. Obviously, foul trouble is a concern, but he's definitely someone I'm interested in as a cheap option. And Bones Highland, I think he'll have a decent role off the bench as kind of the sixth man for Denver. He's a GPP option if you do want to go there at 4,500. He's someone that I don't hate for value. But yeah, that's probably it for this game. Let's move on to the last two games of the slate, the two late night games. So we got Dallas and Phoenix. Looking at the Dallas side, projected starting lineup is Luka, Spencer Dinwiddie, Reggie Bullock, DFS, and JaVale McGee. And then on the Suns side, projected starting lineup is basically the same thing as last season, except Cam Johnson will be starting over Jay Crowder. I think Jay Crowder is he's looking for a trade right now or something, if I remember correctly. I think saw a report about that. He's inactive. I thought he said he wants to be traded or he wasn't participating in training camp. I don't know what's going on there, but Suns starting lineup should be Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and DeAndre Ayton. In this game, there's not a ton that I'm loving here. I think Luka is for sure in play as a stud option. We know Luka is a really good point-per-minute player. We know he's going to have a massive role with Dallas once again. Even with Christian Wood now on the team, even with Dinwiddie still on the team, without Jalen Brunson, there's going to be plenty of usage available for Luka, and Luka's going to be a superstar once again. He's one of the favorites to win MVP this year. Him and Jokic, I think, are two of the better pay-up options on the slate. But outside of that, I'm not loving a ton. Christian Wood's going to come off the bench. Normally 6,700 would be too cheap for Christian Wood, but he's expected to be the sixth man for Dallas this season, so I'm not loving him as kind of in a reserve role. I don't think he's going to be worth that price tag. Booker and CP3 both feel priced about right on this slate. 6,200 for Ayton, I think, is a little bit too cheap, but you do have guys like Şengün, Bam Adebayo kind of priced near Ayton, and I think I would rather go to those guys. Mikal Bridges at 5,300 feels priced about right. Dinwiddie, I think at 5,400 is appealing, especially without Jalen Brunson. I think Dinwiddie's going to have plenty of opportunity. I'm guessing they're going to stagger him and Luka, so Dinwiddie will probably be the backup point guard, so that whenever Luka's not on the floor, Dinwiddie will be on the floor. If Dinwiddie gets minutes on the floor without Luka, he should be really productive in those minutes. So, yeah, I think besides Luka, Dinwiddie's probably my next favorite play in this game. Probably it, though. Cam Johnson, even though he's going to start, feels priced about right at 5K. JaVale McGee is expected to start, but obviously he's going to be splitting minutes with Christian Wood, and at 5K, he doesn't really stand out. I think that's it for this one. So let's talk about the last game of the night, the Blazers and the Kings. So looking at the Blazers here, projected starting lineup is going to be Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Josh Hart, Jeremy Grant, and Nurkic. And then on the other side with the Kings, projected starting lineup, De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Trey Lyles, and Sabonis. I think this is another game similar to the Charlotte-San Antonio game, similar to the Houston-Atlanta game. This is one that could definitely be high scoring. I know both these teams were pretty bad defensively last season. Both these teams did also play at a pretty fast pace. So Damian Lillard, now that he's fully healthy, I think at 9,400, I would probably still rather get up to Luka and Jokic, but I definitely think Dame is in play for tournaments here. I don't think his ownership will be super high with just so many other pay-up options in the game environment. The pace of this game does set up really well for Dame. So I'm kind of interested in Dame. I think De'Aaron Fox is viable as well at 8,300. Sabonis, though, is for sure. Sabonis and Nurkic are my two favorite plays in this game, and it sucks that they're both center only. So I guess you could play both together, but I would really like it if one of them was power forward eligible. But Sabonis at 8,100. I mean, Sabonis, we know he's going to have a massive role. Even with the Kings last season, some people thought getting traded to the Kings might impact his fantasy value a little bit. Really wasn't the case. He had a massive role. He was scoring a ton, rebounding a ton, getting assists. Sabonis is just a guy that's going to stuff the stat sheet, and he's going to play big minutes as well. At 8,100, he's just too cheap, man. Like, Sabonis should be over 9K pretty much every slate, and especially in a good matchup, in a fast-paced game. Love Sabonis here. I think he's a great option. I think Nurkic is a great option as well. We know Nurkic is a guy that can stuff the stat sheet when he gets minutes. As long as he stays out of foul trouble, I'd assume he plays probably low 30s minutes. And I think playing with Damian Lillard actually is going to help Nurkic. I want to say that Nurkic's numbers playing with Lillard are actually better than playing without Lillard, because Lillard can set up Nurkic really well for like those pick and pops, those pick and rolls. So Nurkic at 6,300, I really like in this game as well. This is definitely one of the more appealing games on the slate for just, in terms of points projected, and both Sabonis and Nurkic are way too cheap. Anthony Simons, we obviously saw have a massive year last year. He played amazing without Damian Lillard. Now that Damian Lillard is healthy, I think Simons will take a little bit of a step back this season, but he is still viable at 5,900. I think he is still going to get plenty of opportunity without Dame. They might stagger him and Dame so that Simons is kind of like the backup point guard, basically play the role that CJ McCollum had. So I definitely think Simons is viable, probably more so for tournaments though. Jeremy Grant with Portland now, 5,700, probably feels priced about right. Josh Hart, 5,200, I don't hate, but I think he's definitely going to take cede some usage to Dame now. I mean, we never saw Dame and Hart play together last season because Dame wasn't healthy. Hart was obviously super, super productive with the Blazers last year, but it's a different scenario now that they do have Damian Lillard healthy and they do have Jeremy Grant healthy as well, or Jeremy Grant's on the team now as well. But 5,200 for Josh Hart is definitely cheap, and he's going to play big minutes, I would assume. So he's for sure in play too. Like, there's a lot of viable options in this game. I think we kind of talked about my favorites, just kind of first look, but like even a guy like Trey Lyles, he's expected to start and he's only 3,300. We saw Trey Lyles be productive when he got minutes last season. I definitely have interest in him as kind of a punt play. There's a lot to like in this one, but for sure Sabonis and Nurkic just stand out as being way too cheap. I love both those guys on this slate. But that's it, man. That's it for this 12-game slate. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. Hopefully, some of you guys might have watched this whole video, and I appreciate you doing so. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And make sure to check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Sign up for PrizePicks. Use promo code NOAH. When you do, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. Take a look at some of the props that PrizePicks has available right now for Wednesday. I will have a PrizePicks video posted probably shortly after this video goes up. I'll try and find some props that I like, kind of taking a first look at the board, see what's available. If you guys want to check out that video, see some props that I'm liking, you can do so. But yeah, guys, sign up for PrizePicks. Use code NOAH. Get your first deposit match up to $100. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I do wish you the best of luck on this 12-game slate. It should be a ton of fun. I'm so glad the NBA is back, man. NBA season is just, it's my favorite time of the year. I hope you guys have been enjoying the NBA content so far. Best of luck on this one, guys, and we will see you in the next video.